Like in general, I'd say that I'm against the government funding of the Keystone Pipeline because I think it would be better to spend that $8 billion on renewable energy sources and clean energy sources. So that's just kind of in general. And then of course after like the chemical spill in West Virginia, to take that to a scale of polluting the water source for 8 states seems like too big of a risk to take. And that's just one, obviously, environmental concern.
I guess for the sake of like fresh water, because we don't have a lot of those type of places anymore, it would make most sense to either try to go around it or not just go over the water. And then I also question whether we're actually going to save money down the road. I think just because we get whatever more thousands of barrels or millions of barrels of gasoline, probably we're not going to probably still going to pay the same amount of money for gasoline and all these other things. So thank you, Mr. Sean. And then in general, just but I don't think it's going to stop though. So then, have we wasted all these resources already? I don't know how much money we've already spent on this, but if it's already 3 phases in, it's probably going to happen regardless of what people say or do.
Look at it this way. Oil is a stabilizing agent for the United States. We definitely need it. We are reliant on electricity right now, but it can't keep going like that considering the cost and the trade-offs just not worth it right now. So if you look at it that way, it's definitely a very good idea to tap that oil deposit. The one issue I have with that is that it goes through an aquifer, and water is actually getting to be a very scarce resource, and in the future that water might actually be more scarce than the oil. So if that's such a case, then we definitely should be taking care of that aquifer too. And from the very start, I think that every plan should have a backup, a contingency plan should something go wrong. So for them to approve this plan and not really think of funneling money into alternative resources to replace oil when that oil deposit's gone, that was just really stupid. So they really should have come up with an alternative choice. And maybe they could have disseminated the jobs by bypassing certain areas, and if that put a little more money into it, maybe it would be all right, I guess, if that was the case. But other than that, I think it's a decent idea. It's just the impact doesn't really feel like it's worth it.
I'm in favor, actually, of the pipeline. I know a lot of my colleagues probably aren't because they're probably more liberal than I am. But I think it's a good opportunity for us to try to get off leaning on the Middle East's oil. I think a lot of that money that we get to the Middle East for that oil goes to a lot of things that hurt America. And so I'm for letting Americans have the money and our allies in Canada. I also think some of that profit should be used to fund research on other types of energy use that we could use besides oil in the future.
I think that there's probably a balanced way of handling a situation like this. I think that if we don't do a project like this, somebody does a project like this regardless. So I think in the end it is about how the government wants to create policy around this for a long term. So, yeah, it could boost the economy. Yes, it could damage the environment. However, if we don't have actual policy around reducing carbon emissions, and there are so many other things to do, to begin to address the environment. I think ultimately I don't want to see the dang thing built. I think there are other ways of getting that oil out of there, and we can get that oil moving across to other states. I think there's other ways of using NAFTA in a more positive way than a negative way as it has been used. I don't think we should be destroying land in order to get to make this happen. That's not to say I don't think we should get this oil and start using this oil and creating jobs. I think there are just other ways that are probably more conducive to preserving that environment. And I guess just lastly, again, we need to have a long-term government policy and solution in regards to how we do energy. I agree with a lot of what was said about looking at alternative forms of energy and really investing in that, but that is a long-term thought process that requires a whole lot of policies to really address that.